Vavai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
That this book is for mumukshus. Who are these mumukshus who are looking for moksha? And who are these people who are looking for moksha? They have recognized that the normal pursuit of pleasure, security, and even living an ethical life doesn't actually solve my problem. Doesn't mean that they are bad, and in fact they have their place, but it does not actually solve my problem. There is that feeling of incompleteness that I have in my life, it doesn't go away. Now, who is the one who is eligible for this, moksha? So, who is eligible for this moksha? The one who has tapo bihi shina papana. So that means they have to have certain self-mastery. Right? Before this knowledge begins to make sense to you, you need to have some self-mastery. And what is the self-mastery? So, the first aspect of the self-mastery is what we saw, certain mastery over your speech, right? Why speech is so important? So when we study Atma Bodha, speech, the presiding deity for speech is Agni, fire. What is the job of fire? Either it can burn or it can light a place. So you have to use the speech not to burn things, right? But you have to use it to light up. So this is how you can actually deal with. So the whole of Mahabharata and Bhagavad Purana. So Lord Krishna had to deal with so many very complex situations, right? So suppose he said, now let me please everyone, he can't deal with anything. So he has to do what he has to do. At the same time, what he has to keep his intention clear, and he has to keep his integrity, and then he has to do what he has to do. So that means he speaks through Mahabharata. It's interesting how in the most difficult situations, how does Lord Krishna deal with anything? He has no qualms about presenting the situation as it is. There is no sense of discomfort. And he says exactly what he has to say. But after having said it, there are no carry forwards. There are no more holding on, creating stories, getting involved. All that is, so that means the mind, having said what you have to say, is free from all the hangover and all the leftovers which kind of keep going on and on and on. We keep ruminating. As we keep ruminating, we don't do what needs to be done. So that means you have to free your mind from loads, and you have to learn to do what you have to do and speak as you have to speak. Okay. So this is what we call one source of mastery. The second, so I just want to mention a few, and then I will not deal with everything in detail here. Why? Because the evening class of the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita will deal a lot with your relationship with Ishvara and how you have to change as a human being. So here I'll just show you some areas of mastery. The other area of mastery, which is a big mastery, he had, your proper relationship with your body. This is a huge. People suffer from all kinds of complexes related to their body. And that can either you can actually, in the name of spirituality. So that's so interesting how spirituality actually gets distorted into abusing your body in one form or the other. So all these drug-related things and all, which are actually altering everything and all. So that actually is considered an abuse. Any alteration that you do or anything that you... So in fact, this body is given to you to discover reality. It has to have certain amount of purity. It has to have certain amount of non-afflict, because anything that you do to alter your states, which are actually... I have a friend in... it could be anywhere, but he's a European, but that doesn't mean anything. I don't mean to at all pass any judgment, right? So what he was saying is that he so-called joined some very exclusive club, the exclusive club of CEOs and all, and they are all wanting to bring this happens, and I hear it only by talking to people, right? So he is in some movement where he wants to bring kind of a consciousness to the corporate world, how to do ethical business, how to kind of, Now, what is the condition for joining this so-called exclusive club? So you have to have some drug, some South American drug. Why? I said, how is it related? So he says, when you have that drug, then what happens is you actually begin to feel oneness. And when you really begin to feel oneness, your sensitivities of, what happens to others, so you're no longer indifferent. So this is a very, how it is sold is, it will make this oneness, which is an idea, real for you. So this is called abuse. We are not, we are not trying to, you really have, it's not the altered states which will give you the understanding of realities. It is the clear, non-conflicted mind which is connected to realities is going to give you this knowledge of oneness. So please don't deceive yourself. So these one has to distinguish between what is an abuse. It can't be mistaken for spiritual evolution. So these kind of things are very important. So that means body abuse is a common thing. Body abuse can also not mean only taking things which actually alter your states, but it can also mean how comfortable you are with your body. So many of us carry such a negative self-image connected to our bodies. It's interesting, even as sometimes I'm like, where are people, right? So somebody who is like really slim and attractive and all, so they say, oh, I'm so fat. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So that means there is this is what we call simple facts. Our mind is not able to relate. It twists everything. And we twist so many things, and our relationship with the world, our relationship with ourselves, it all goes totally skewed. So that means this kind of a thing, even sometimes, we have self-mastery, healthy relationship with our body, not overindulgence. So we have a practice called fasting. Fasting means that you are not mindlessly putting whatever you want on your body. That's another form of abuse, right? You keep putting junk food, you keep eating all kinds of things which are totally unhealthy for you. That's another form of abuse. So now we have another practice called fasting, which is tapas. Tapas means you restrict the food and you're mindful of what you eat. And that's a very actually healthy quality. But that itself can actually become a distorted thing. So sometimes we have this in India, we have it kind of institutionalized fasting. So there is this, Navratri time. It's a fasting time, many of them. So one of my friends, she was fasting. So I said, why? She said, I want to lose weight. So that means we do fasting, but it's not ultimately what is the purpose of that practice is self-mastery. But we lose track. everything becomes for just kind of over obsessive identification with your body, and overly concerned and almost obsessive. So that means, and along with that obsession is connected your negative self-image that is more destructive. So that means there is constant inadequacy around your life, feeling of inadequacy. So that is something that we need to free ourselves from. So that is, so healthy relationship with body, at the same time not abusing your body, right? So this is one form of. The other one is healthy emotions. That is a self. All this will come quite a lot in detail in the Bhagavad Gita. Healthy emotions means neither you are trying to suppress your emotions, nor you are in denial of your emotions. Your ability to actually acknowledge your emotions and to guide them with certain amount of wisdom so that your emotional life flows effortlessly, So that is what we call self-mastery also. And anything related, whether it is body or anything, yourself has to feel nurtured by your own self-image and not constantly inadequate. These are some of the very important areas of self-mastery. So that means whether intellectual accomplishments or with reference to body, or just you feel what is my worth, that has to be intact. My self-worth cannot be zero. That my self-worth, I am somebody that you have to, how will people give you respect if you have no respect for yourself? Right? But respect doesn't mean proud. It's not. We think that when we give respect to ourselves, we are proud. That's not true. So that means neither it is pride nor it is depreciating yourself. Just having a healthy self-image. These are the preconditions before Vedanta begins to work for you. This comes under eligibility. So that means this. If you have all of this, then Vedanta will begin to work. And that means what will Vedanta do is they understand that nobody comes with 100 on 100 for all of this. So the teaching itself includes changing all of this over a period of time so that your eligibility increases. Okay, so these are what the tapas. So self-mastery we need to work for. We don't have self-mastery in all these areas, and we need to work at it. Okay, so tapopihi. Now, what is the result of this tapas? Suppose you take initiative towards this self-mastery. He says, kshina papana. What does it mean? So suppose you said, yeah, I want to indulge. I want to say what I want to say, right? And I want to treat my body the way I want to treat my body. And anyway, emotions I have, and whatever my self-orientation is, I can't change. So suppose you say, now this is what I am and I can't change. And you don't take any initiative towards changing yourself or making some changes. So then, what is the outcome of that? What is the consequence of that? So here he says, just 1 minute. The consequence is papa. Tapo bihi kshina papana. Papa is something that suppose your relationships are not accurate, right? With yourself, with the world, with your own emotional life, with your own self-image, with your own speech. You just do things as impulsively. What is the consequence? Consequence is papa. What is papa? Papa means that it doesn't mean that you are condemned or anything. It means that whenever your actions are inappropriate, the way the universe is designed, the actions and their consequences are closely connected through cause and effect relationship. So you can't say that I'm not going to change the causes. I'm going to continue to be I behave as I am. I'm not going to invest in changing the causes. Then what will happen is, as your causes are, there are going to be effects. So that means please don't think that you're doing the world a favor by taking care of your emotions. Not only you victimize others, but you also, it actually turns around and it comes back to you. And when it turns around and it comes back to you, it's called papa. Papa means that you have to face the situations, right, that you have gone through. So this is a loose example. Please don't take it very seriously. This is not some great example or anything. But I was just saying that, in India, cleanliness is a very big topic. It's a very big topic because, especially all these educated people, they say, how these people throw and things like that. And then there's a big debate. People get all very charged up when they talk about cleanliness. So, there's always anger towards others. Oh, why can't people do this and why can't people do this? It's true that people don't do it. But at the same time, what I see now in India is that there is a whole big shift. So I live by the beach, and either you can be angry about how people are throwing things and all. Now, almost every weekend, I have people come from the corporates, people come from customs, people come from every schools, and they all come and clean up. It's amazing. It's amazing because for the first time in so many years, I see, instead of complaining, people participate. So this is something where you can either complain about everything till cows go home and you are stuck with dissatisfied mind, or you begin to do something about it. And when you do something about it, you can do small things, right? Every day you can't come and clean, but one day you come and clean, you inspire 5 more people. And this time, how it little acts, then how they culminate into something big. This time, so during Ganesha festival, Juhu Beach is packed because everybody has come to immerse Ganesha in the sea. So it's full. And generally all kinds of people come and they litter, and there is this year, as people, the ideal should be, they should not litter, but that's okay. But as people litter, there was somebody to pick it up. Wow. And the next day, it was relatively very, very clean. So that is something which is what we call change of mindset. This change of mindset is something which is very important, because when you're doing that, instead of complaining about people, what are you doing? You're adding causes. As you begin to add causes, you bring about a shift in the effect. Otherwise, people will never change. They will continue to be who they are. What are you adding to it? Your own dissatisfaction. And it seems as though you are very concerned and that you are very evolved and you're only looking down on others, but your value added is zero. If you want to bring about any change which is an effect, you have to start with causes. Whether it is the general thing or it is your own life, right? Either you can complain till the cows go home, this one is like that, my sister did this to me, my husband is like that, and it goes on. Or you have to create the right causes. Once you begin to create right causes, you are living in an intelligent world. The effects cannot but change over a period of time. So therefore, this is what, as you begin to improve your causes, what will happen? The effects will become better. As they become better, right? Because there is a kind of maybe there is some time lag between your changing and things around you changing, even for you to change, right? It takes time. But it is something which is putting your mind from a dissatisfied mode to a constructive mode. we all have to make your mind be used in a way that you are not projecting your anger on the world, you're not projecting your dissatisfaction on the world, you're actually thinking about what is important to me and creating right causes. Right causes in the right direction, understanding your sphere of influence. If you become that person, you will see how your whole mental makeup will change. And how cheerful your life will become, because you are trying to solve the problem and you're not carrying the loads, because you have applied your mind towards the solution to the problem. Yeah, you had something to say? No?
It's gone.
Oh, it's gone.
I thought you asked a question and I thought it was for us, but it wasn't.
Okay, sorry. Okay, yeah. Okay. So therefore, here he says, therefore, when you take these initiatives, you will begin to, the papa will begin to reduce. That means what it means is, as long as your actions are not in order, the universe will keep giving you feedback about nature of your actions, and the difficulties or whatever will continue to be there. So if you want to change the feedback, what is the choice? Change your causes. Otherwise it's not possible. Otherwise we keep complaining about the effects, but nobody pays attention on the causes. So as you make the right choices, the effects will begin to come. Yeah.
Question, is there a hierarchy between these things?
That's is there a hierarchy between these things?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, let me give you an example. So you need a clear mind, relatively clear mind, for understanding the final reality. Because what will happen is, if your mind is not ready, what happens is, when you talk about this very big picture, the mind projects, right? Your mind projects and it thinks that it understands, but actually it doesn't. So therefore, you have to get the mind as factual as possible. Factual in which area? Every area that you have to deal with in life, right? So we have to deal with our bodies, we have to deal with our minds, we have to deal with the world, we have to deal with people in it. So that means in all of these areas, our mind has to become pretty much factual and not projecting, and problem solving and not complaining. So that is an overall. This is why eligibility is talked about. And as you begin to work towards that eligibility, what will happen is these papas will reduce. Papas means the consequences that you have created through your inappropriate choices that keep coming back to you. So when they keep coming back to you, it seems like, my God, what have I done to deserve this? But life is showing you how you have lived your life. So that's why one has to change, and it's not punishing you. Please don't use these kind of words that the life is punishing you, because these are very heavy words. They burden you more than they lighten you. So the whole purpose of life is what? When you become clear, what is an indicator of being clear? Your loads begin to be reduced. As your loads begin to be reduced, you naturally, what is an indicator? There was this one big shot from Dubai came, and he listened to my talks and he says, what are the indicators? Okay. How do I know if I'm progressing, whether I'm not progressing? How do I know? And it's true, it's a very valid question, right? So you can come and listen, but how do you know, are you moving closer or not? So that means one very good indicator is how cheerful you are becoming, how enthusiastic you are becoming, how non-judgmental about the world you are. You may have opinions. That doesn't mean that you don't have opinions. You can have opinions, but you don't have such fixed, non-changeable kind of labels to things. Really. This is an indicator of being spiritually evolving. Right? Really. So you can do, in fact, you can do so much more than anybody else, but without loads. This is what you want from your life. And you don't make everybody else's life miserable. So there are people who are perfectionists. Perfectionist means they want everything perfect. I ask people who work with them. They go crazy. So why do they go crazy? Because in that zeal for perfectionism, they lose track of everything else. So that means this is why there are no real weights, or there is no priority. What is one thing I can tell you? Some people are good at one, but they are not good at the other. So that means when I talk about it, I talk about, or the text, not me. The text talk about everything. Then different people have to take different things. So suppose somebody is like, there are psychologists, there are psychiatrists. They have actually looked into emotion, right? They have looked into things like that. But they still may have some body issues, so that means each one has something. Somebody has anger issue, somebody has sadness issue. So somebody has superiority complex, somebody has inferiority. So that means it addresses everyone. But what people have to do is different. You understand? So that means you have your own priority, because there are some areas where you're good. Already you're pretty mature. Some areas that you need work on. And the direction in which you need to work on. Some people are overly kind of, unmindful of others, and they say things, and the other one is so scared of saying anything. So that means both have to do work. One in one direction, gathering courage to speak up, and the other one in not abusing people and not just kind of, So each one has to decide, because the teacher and the teaching takes care of number of areas. What applies to you is your unique thing. You need to prioritize. But overall, you need a mind which is good at mostly all of these things. Now, here I want to say, what is the relationship between knowing Atma and having this kind of a mastery, self-mastery over your mind? So mind itself, you can't make it like 100% perfect. It's impossible. So what is the relationship? I have been talking about this in many of my classes, and I think in that Atma Bodha also it will come. Suppose this is the sun, and you have 3 vessels. It will come, I think. Yeah. So that means you need and in these vessels there are water. So you need clear water in order for sun to reflect itself properly. Sun as such has got nothing to do with water. At the same time, water needs to be clear in order to reflect the sun. So Atma Bodha is what? Atma is shown to be like sun, which is always full. But in order to understand this Atma, you need a relatively clear mind. So that means this clear mind stands for, and you have worked, this tapas is through which you have worked for this clear mind. This is why this comes as eligibility. Okay, so tapobihi kshina papanam shantanam. Shantanam means again. So that means there is some kind of a resolution. Resolution in the sense that this inner voice of resentment, the things which are kind of making your life miserable, all that is relatively clear. So what it means is, suppose you are walking somewhere or you are doing things, your mind is not constantly giving you the messages of, oh, that is so difficult, oh, I can't do it, all these people are like this. And so that means there is always this mind which is all this complaining mind. That complaining mind has to go. that is what we call Shanta. Shanta means a mind which is relatively not preoccupied with one given pattern. It's a clean mind which is actually available to respond to what is in front of it with a certain clarity and certain objectivity. Shanta nam vitaragina. So vitaragina means there is this what we call, in addition to all of this, there is one thing that we all have, and that is what we call raga and dvesha. So this is why yesterday they were talking about this whole raga and dvesha. It was Yuta who was talking about it, or Rag who was talking about it. Yeah, so that's my job is to just give you a lecture on raga and dvesha. Then Surya will give you the exercises to recognize which are your real ragas and dveshas. So today, no.
You have to come to Bonn.
Thank you for
Thank
you.
You have to. So just that you have, oh, this is so well written. Thank you, Ekaterina. That's nice handwriting you have.
Yeah.
Very clear. Unlike mine, nobody can read. Okay. Raga. Vitaragina. Raga dvesha. Vitaragina means people from whom this raga and dvesha have relatively gone away. Okay? Raga stands for likes and dvesha stands for dislikes. Now, if you take it literally, then it means that nobody should have any likes and dislikes. That is not possible. Why is it not possible? If you don't have any likes and dislikes, how will you live in the world? So you will lose, you will go to the garbage and start having food. You have no likes and dislikes. Likes and dislikes are very integral part of all of us. Right? So that means that in fact the world runs because of likes and dislikes. What does it mean? That she had a like to be a doctor, and so by being a doctor she serves so many people. She had a like to be a jeweler, so many women who have to go for nice weddings or otherwise, they all go to her. So that means people do what they like, and as they do what they like, people's interests are being served. That's why somebody liked to be an engineer. So you have all kinds of civil engineers, you have IT, you have all kinds of people. They went into that because they liked it. And by doing what they are doing, how many of us get served? Right? So that somebody wanted to be a civil engineer. So they build buildings. Without them, we can't live. We can't have a home to live. So this is why likes and dislikes, please don't make them your enemies, because they are your unique self-expressions. And each unique self-expression is actually required in order for the world to run, because the world needs everyone, services of everyone. World needs accountants, world needs lawyers, world needs everyone. Now, so why is this text is saying to keep your raga and dvesha under check? Because the same likes and dislikes, which actually give you an opportunity to uniquely participate in this world, they turn into binding likes and dislikes. What does it binding likes and dislikes means? That they don't allow you to express yourself freely, they become binding for you. What does it mean? That in their pursuit, you lose your perspective. So only those likes and dislikes you need to check. These likes and dislikes are absolutely no problem. They are your expressions. So that means, first, how do you know that this given like or dislike is binding me? Is binding in nature for me?
That I think I need it for my life to be happy, otherwise I cannot be
Okay, so that means that your binding like and dislike is, your message to you that you give is, as we have seen, what we have seen, artha, dharma and kama by themselves don't give you the inherent happiness that you are searching for. But as Carl is saying, suppose you think, without this I will never be happy. So that means you have given it more value than what it actually can do for you. So it may be useful. So let me give you an example, right? So suppose you say that I love this person, wonderful, right? It's nice, it's lovely to love this person. But I suppose you are a 17-year-old and you say, I can't live without this person. So that means what? After 2 years, you had 3 more boyfriends, right? So that means at that given point in time, it seemed as though you can't live without this person. Means you're giving that person a value that that person doesn't intrinsically have, right? So that means there is a kind of a loss of perspective. Now, so therefore, when you start with loss of perspective, by assigning wrong value to things, then what happens is, let's not take relationship, let's take money, for example. Then in that pursuit of money, which is healthy, which will give you, some comforts, it will give you some forms of security, it will give you a comfortable life, everything is okay. But suppose you lose your perspective with reference to money, what it will do is, somehow I want to make, first you think that will make you happy, which in itself it may not be. Then in the pursuit of that given thing, you lose your sense of dharma, what is the right thing to do. You lose your sense of, am I stepping on somebody's lines in order to pursue that. So that means that overvaluation leads to distorted behaviors because you don't care what happens to others. You're in a single pursuit, so you lose track of dharma. The second thing that can happen is that when suppose you don't get it, then what happens? You feel depressed, you feel angry, you feel sad. So that means that life is designed in a way that you don't always fulfill all your likes and dislikes. You ask who you think is the most successful person and ask how many likes and dislikes they had and whether they satisfied all of them or not. How many times in our lives we have to deal with situations which don't exactly go according to our likes and dislikes. So many situations, right? And if suppose not getting what you want makes you this kind of a frustrated human being, then you're carrying a load within you. And that is something which, this load is a problem. This loss of perspective is a problem. So that means likes and dislikes themselves are not a problem. Loss of perspective is a problem. And loss of perspective then leads to suffering. And nobody wants that suffering.
Question here. So while you said binding likes and dislikes, on hindsight, you could possibly say that yes, this was not a right decision. But at that point in time,
yeah.
So how do we sort of calibrate to that?
Yeah, you can calibrate to that by initially, see, moksha means you have already somehow figured out the place of these three.
But in real life, how do we, we're still trying to achieve moksha.
Absolutely. So you're trying to achieve moksha, but suppose either you can say, see, it's again re-understanding. So either you can say, money is my final goal, and then there is a loss of perspective. Or you can say, money is important, but my final goal is moksha. And for moksha, I need kind of a clear mind. So I do pursue my money, but it's not, neither it's going to give me the final fulfillment Or suppose in the pursuit of money, I lose perspective, I'm increasing my load rather than reducing
So
it.
money, I think, is a relatively easy answer because it's a mean and not the end.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if I could just change that
So
conflict.
can you give me an example? Relationship, right? Relationship is a good example. See, one thing is very important, that we all need to relate. Relationship is an integral part of life, right? So spirituality doesn't mean detachment. Really, it doesn't mean detachment. The whole Bhagavad Gita is talking about understanding your connection with the world and improving your participation in the world. It doesn't mean staying away from the world. Okay? So therefore, in relationships, so suppose you're claiming that I don't need love. It's not true. Everybody needs love. And everybody, in fact, most of the adults, the very deep issue, if you look, they have, what is a deep issue that they have is lack of love. Feeling of lack of love. Feeling of lack of love, not real lack of love. Then instead of trying to deny, trying to address it, what we do is, we try to say, oh, I don't need, I'm going to be detached, I'm not concerned. We create further distortions. So you can say to yourself that love is something which is integral part of every need of every human being. So in that there is no problem. But what is this distortion? The binding like and dislike means, what it means is, this love is now, what is a distorted form of this love? That becomes a problem, not love as such. So that means love generally means control. This is a problem. So that means when your love is crossing the line and is becoming control, you want the other person to behave exactly as you want them to behave because now you love that person. This becomes binding in nature. So when this becomes binding in nature, we don't have to not love. What we have to do is to reduce our control. So what we think is that, oh, love leads to so many, I feel so sad, and why you feel sad not because of love. You feel sad because you want to constantly control the person and the person doesn't do what you want, and then you feel miserable. So that means this control has to go, or dependency, again dependency. This is a problem.
Over-dependency.
Yeah, over-dependency. What is over-dependency? What it means is, it's interesting how many people, I was talking to a friend and she said, yeah, I like to go for a walk and then I said, yeah, so then why don't you go? So she says, no, I don't have a company. So that means for small activities, you depend. So that is, and especially it's interesting, that in India, in Bombay, they have all these designer exhibitions, big exhibitions. So they all design one, and they have all these designers come and they display their things. And so one of my friends, a student, she was participating in this. She had a stall there. So she says, yeah, why don't you come? So I had a class. So I was going back home. I said, please drop in, just to see what it is like. So I dropped in and I met some people, and the first question they asked me is, you're alone? As though I'm doing some crime by being alone. The way it is such a loaded, it's not a factual question, it is a loaded question. A loaded question means it gets connected with, you don't have anybody to go out with. It is all kinds of, so there is so much inadequacy. You feel simple things you can't do. And so that is something that we all have to overcome. I myself had this problem. I used to work with the UN, so very often we have to go and travel and things like that. And daytime you are taken care of, you have business lunches. At evenings also sometimes they do, but at times you don't have dinner. Then I used to feel so this thing to go to a restaurant alone and sit and have a meal. Because it's not just, so what, you sit and you order and you eat and you go. But it is a whole big thing. And I was going for work and I had a nice husband at home. It was not like I was lonely or anything, but there is a whole big connotation. Oh, you're sitting alone, you're doing this alone, as though it's some big thing, as though it is a whole big thing for inadequacy. This is something which needs to change, right? Your need for love is wonderful. These things become distortions. So when we are trying to correct, unfortunately, we don't know what we are trying to correct. So our love leads to these. So then we think we have to stop loving. No. This is required. We need to take out only the distortions. So this is something that this binding likes and dislikes. Because why are they likes and dislikes have no problem? Because they give you your unique personality. The binding nature of them means there is a distortion. Distortion means you have skewed the way of looking at it. That skewing actually creates your suffering, and it actually distorts the way you deal with things. It affects your decision making. Okay? Yeah.
But isn't it also a very small path between your likes and dislikes, creating your unique personality and getting into bondage?
So that's why, see, if you're trying to, what I want to say is, suppose in the name of spirituality, you want to give up all your likes and dislikes because you feel every like and dislike will lead to bondage. Then what will you do from tomorrow? You want to evolve spiritually, but what will you do? See, we think, so many messages are given to us, but we don't stop and we visualize. So now from tomorrow on, I have no likes and I have no dislikes. I want to eliminate everything because it always becomes problematic. So therefore, one good thing about like and dislike is you don't need to do anything. They will keep changing. Really. So that means, suppose I ask you that when you were a kid, what did you like? You liked toys. Did you have to sit and reflect one day and you have to say, these toys are now, I've overgrown them. Now I have to search for something else. Toys dropped and something else came up. What came up from toys to boys? Effortless. Then from boys to whatever, right? Your job, your career, then your kids. It keeps changing. And what you want to do is evolve sufficiently that you have like for moksha. If you abort this process of a mind expressing itself and taking out distortions, what will happen is you will artificially remove yourself from this, and what will happen is as we saw in the morning, a nurtured mind is necessary for moksha. Moksha cannot be a result of your disenchantment with world. If you have come to moksha because you are dissatisfied, actually you need to address that dissatisfied mind first and become a relatively healthy, nurtured mind before you begin to understand your limitlessness. It's not possible. A dissatisfied mind, a person who is feeling nothing is good and the world is... the world where you see problem, you have to see Ishvara. That is what we call conversion. There are no two lives. There is in the vision of oneness, you don't have material and spiritual. There is only one. Either you understand it and live properly, or you don't understand it and you suffer.
Could you say that you have to start liking your likes and dislikes instead of disliking your likes and dislikes?
Wonderful. Exactly. I mean, you have to start liking, but not out of perspective. So you have to start liking your likes and dislikes. It's true, because that gives you your uniqueness, right? But not liking them to the extent that you get totally lost in it and you lose perspective. So that means the art is to actually express your likes and dislikes, but only take out the distortions within that. So if you don't come to this knowledge, what happens is likes and dislikes come along with their distortions. So it seems as though I have to give them up because those distortions give me unhappiness. So then I feel that likes and dislikes are actually creating this suffering. So I have to give them up. But actually, it's not the likes and dislikes are creating suffering. It's your loss of perspective which is creating suffering. So that means what you do need to do is change your perspective. As you begin to change your perspectives, those likes and dislikes will become your embellishment. They will become your embellishment. They will give you your uniqueness when you interact with the world.
Yeah, I was thinking also maybe like putting a bit of gap between yourself and likes and dislikes, and be able to watch them like if you do by action and reaction.
Yeah.
So to recognize the likes and dislikes and say, well, great, you're here, and now let's see how to deal with you.
Yeah, so this is exactly what we call having a proper perspective. Yeah, it's called proper perspective. So they don't rule you. That's why it's called self-mastery. Right? They don't take you away. You learn to manage them. Right? But there is no physical distance. Please don't create a physical distance between you and your likes and dislikes. So that means there is a mind, and that has likes and dislikes. Now the same mind has distortions. So the mind has to remove those distortions and let the likes and dislikes express themselves freely. When there is no physical distance and you create a physical distance, you get into a problem which is psychologically called dissociation. This is a common problem with Vedanta. Oh, it's my mind which has this and I'm awareness. This is called problem of dissociation. Because there is no physical distance between mind and Atma. So that means these are all what we call, this is why when you listen to Vedanta with a projecting mind, what will happen is the profoundest ideas get twisted by you. And then you start thinking, oh, I get it. Then it's a disaster, because what you don't understand, it seems like I understand. If you understand, you don't understand, it's much better than what you don't understand seems like I understand.
You spoke about the distortions and you gave example of a lady who was scared to go alone for a walk.
Yes.
So here the social perceptions play a big role that the society is concerned.
Yes. So this is why, absolutely, so many of our choices are also governed by social, norms that people create, people's perception, and what happens is that becomes a huge part in our decision making. So what we are trying to do is, you can't change the people. They will continue to be who they are. What we are trying to do through Vedanta is to strengthen your discriminative capacity. As you begin to strengthen your discriminative capacity, your weight that you give to people and their opinion and their norms will naturally reduce. Otherwise, they continue to guide your decision making because there is a lack of strength in you. There is a lack of investment in your own. You haven't reflected as to what is important to you. Therefore, what everybody else thinks becomes so important naturally.
It's very mindless. We don't think about
We
it.
don't think about it. We just take on these impressions and we just act on it. Absolutely.
Could we say that the impact of this, let's say, our opinion of others is in a relationship with our value structure? Because if we were, let's say, okay with our value structure, then we wouldn't care about the opinion of others. So if the values were incorporated, then we could act.
Yeah. Not caring is a kind of a. It will not influence your decision making so much. And suppose you care for what others think, then the thing is, but it's not judgmental. That people, either we just totally subscribe to people's opinions, or we are like highly, they are so stupid and they are so ignorant and they don't know anything. So you don't want to get into that either, right? So you just say people are who they are. They have opinions as they have. And over a period of time, your life is your choices, and that becomes clear. And if you can help others to lift themselves up, it's wonderful. But you don't carry load for others. So that is something which is what we call taking care of binding likes and dislikes. Okay, so now. Mumukshu now. So what we have seen in Anubandha Chaturthaya, what we have seen, who is the eligible person? We have seen Adhikari. Vishaya, okay. Then Prayojanam is Moksha. What is the result? This is the person who is eligible, who is Adhikari. Result we want is freedom from inadequacy, smallness, or whatever. Now, what do I do? Okay, suppose I'm eligible and I am what? I want this moksha and I'm eligible for it. What do I do for it? So this is what we call Vishaya. Vishaya means what is the subject? What do I do for this? This is what we call Atma Bodha. I have to know the nature of life. I would like to spend a little bit of time here because suppose I want moksha, why can't I just do something else? I go and I went to Bali recently, and people come from around the world in Bali, especially in a place called Ubud, and there everybody is a seeker. So somebody comes from Argentina, somebody comes from Brazil, somebody comes from everywhere, Guatemala, everywhere they come. Now, so I asked them, what do they do? So they do all kinds of, so they have all figured out very clearly, Artha, Dharma and Kama don't give me what I'm searching for. So now they are into this so-called spiritual world. And within that, there are so many things that people do. Chakra cleansing, aura cleaning. The latest is theta healing. Right, the past life regression. All kinds of things people, they are all people who have somehow recognized that this cannot, but there is this whole big activity. The spiritual world is filled with all these activities. Endless. So therefore, now you need to figure out, I don't mean to, just as I said, Artha, Dharma and Kama may not give you what you want, doesn't mean they are bad. These things, they may have their own benefits and all. I don't know because I haven't done any of this. But they may have. But what sets this Atma Bodha apart from all of this?
Nothing to do, it's nothing to experience, it's just the knowledge about Atma.
Okay. So therefore, what Carl is saying is right, but there is a certain logic that you need to understand. Why, in order to gain freedom, what is the subject? You have to know the nature of Atma. What is the relationship? You
Shows
understand?
that you already are free. And it starts from there and goes
back.
backwards.
This is something that you must understand. Anything else that you do, whether it is Artha, Dharma, Kama or any of these practices, the starting point is you're small. And you have to do something. What is do? Either it starts with the normal people, Artha, Dharma, Kama. Or if you are so-called spiritual, you will add this list. Clean your aura, get your energies right, get your chakras right, whatever. Clean from the past, all your past life loads. So that means this is all what we call doing something. Right? Now, as I said, they're all, it's okay, it's not like bad or anything. But the problem is almost mathematical. What is the mathematical problem? Is you're small and you add something. All of this is finite or not. So I have a friend who she herself, now when I went to Bali, so all these healers, they are not only people who come for healing, but they are teachers who come, right, who are doing this, and they all came to my class. So why? Because they themselves are looking for something more. So that means what happens is you do these things, they are finite, right? So one of them I asked, when you clean the aura of the person, how long does it remain clean? Because if it cleans forever, you don't have to go and see the person, right? So she said, and she was very honest, she says 3 hours. And it's okay. So what happens is that, so please don't think that I'm making fun of anything. I just, that's what she told me. So, but what it means is that it's almost like a small plus small remains small. This is almost like mathematics. It may help you for a while. It's not that it will not help you, right? Just like Artha, Dharma, Kama also helps you. But it cannot again solve your problem that you are searching a solution for, and that is freedom from smallness. So that means the starting point of Vedanta is fundamentally different from every other spiritual pursuit. They are saying that actually you're caught in an impossible situation because the whole world is within time and space and everything is finite. So no matter what you add, it always remains finite. So the only way to solve this problem that you have, which is your freedom from smallness and inadequacy and limitation, is you're not small in the first place. It is to question, it is not to acquire this, but to inquire into this. Am I really small, or I am something much bigger than what I had ever imagined? So therefore, the teaching starts with Atma is complete. The starting point is different. Just 1 minute, then I will. So the starting point is different, that you are the whole. Now the next question is, if I'm the whole, how is it that I don't know it? Then the whole teaching, as Ruksanga says, works backwards. It starts with this premise and it uses many logical methodologies to make you see Now this is your true nature. So therefore, it actually the teaching is not about doing and adding anything. The teaching is about knowing. That is why it is called Atma Bodha. Bodha is knowledge and of Atma. It is re-looking at the nature of Atma. It is asking a question whether I am small and I have to do something, or I am already the whole and I don't know it and I need to now know it. And for this knowing, I have to become eligible. How do I become eligible? Through gaining some self-mastery, taking care of my binding likes and dislikes, becoming a person who is clear and not agitated. So therefore, this is, the pursuit becomes knowledge, because this is already an accomplished fact, according to Vedanta. You had a question?
That's not a question. So are we therefore trying to solve for the infinity? Because whole would form a part of infinity.
Excellent. Yes, we would. So we'll see. This is only the first. The next verses, when they talk about the nature of Atma, it will solve infinity. Absolutely. Wonderful. It will solve it. And in fact, now that you are saying that, it is very interesting. That's why Vedanta, as I told you, is not just ordinary, do good, be good. I mean, it is good. That is good. To do good and be good is very good. But it doesn't stop there. Okay? So, just this is by the way. So, my teacher had, there was a Vedic festival in Bombay, and they called many different people. And I was one of the speakers, and I was talking about Vedanta in daily life. But what I want to talk about just briefly, and I'll show it as we go along. He had called, one of the speakers was a professor of physics at IIT Bombay. And this professor of physics knew my teacher. And my teacher had asked him to do some research. And the research was, how does singularity, as it is presented in physics, compare to non-duality, which is, Atma is infinite, of Vedanta. So he gave a presentation. And I tell you, he was a professor of physics, so he was all math and this and that. And many people were like looking at him, and they didn't quite understand what he was saying because he was too technical. But what was really good is I understood some points that he was trying to make, and I presented it. And not that I know much about it, but from what I understood what the professor was saying, it was really brilliant. It was very, very nice. So this is what actually solving infinity, really. And that we will see how you solve infinity. So we'll come to that. Yes. Okay, so that means here you want to know, and that knowledge in Rajasic words is solving infinity actually. And when you solve it, it cannot be just loose. It has to be systematic, and it has to be following logics. Otherwise, you are just flying with this idea of infinity, which will make you more crazy than a normal crazy person. So that's why these are not ideas to fly with. These are things that need to be understood clearly.
So the solving is then for the mind, because actually there is no solving at all, because the infinity is already there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that means the infinity, either it's already there or it is not there. Because you can't add and reach infinity. Do you understand? The process of adding doesn't add up to infinity. So either infinity is there or it is not there. So either, and suppose that infinity is not an abstract concept, but it's you. Suppose. then it is there or it is not there. So therefore, the whole teaching is taking you to your own infinity, really. And you have to follow it. It's a brilliant teaching. It's a brilliant teaching. This is why it requires engagement on the part of the teacher. Has to be clear. Otherwise, the teacher can take you on a tangent, and the student has to be equally engaging. Because you make a mistake and you go crazy, you go off tangent. So we will see the sophisticated methodology which leads you to discover your own infinity. And the mind, where will you solve this? Mind. And the only place where you can solve it is in the mind. And the mind is all over the place. It cannot solve it. This is why you need to have a mind which is mastered.
Well, there's something basic which I'm not clear upon.
Yes.
We are told action is not opposed to ignorance, so you can't just do things.
Yes.
Because it's not. And yet, we are told that knowledge solves things, but knowledge is also a type of action, right?
No, it's not. No.
We had to come here, we had to book plane tickets, we're listening to you, all these things are actions.
Yeah. So that means there is a fundamental definition. So we have to, that goes back to definition. What do you call action and what do you call knowledge? That, if you don't mind, I will do it in the second verse. Is coming. I will address. If I forget, you remind me. Because this is a very important. What is an action and what is a knowledge? So there is a technical definition. We will see that.
Why is the book not called Atma Gyan? Why is it called Atma Bodha?
Well, if I gave it Atma Gyan, then you'll ask why is it not called Atma Bodha?
It's synonymous.
So that means Sanskrit is a rich language, right? You can express one idea in so many different ways, right? So you can't ask why in this Upanishad Atma is called Atma and there it is called Brahman. This is all richness of expression. What the teacher has to reconcile it all and make it all clear to you, right? So sometimes it is said Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, sometimes it is said Prajnanam Brahma, then Tattvamasi. These are all different expressions but saying the same thing. So you can't say why is it said like this and why is it. These are all that gives richness to the tradition. You are not going, the teacher is not going on repeating. Suppose you come from morning to evening, I keep saying, you're the whole, you're infinity, you're infinity. What will you get? I'm saying probably the truth, but it doesn't help you. So that means there are what we call leading methodologies. Leading methodologies means your mind has to move from what you think of yourself to what Vedanta is saying who you are. It has to move systematically.
And it looks like all the people actually they're looking for this moksha, who wants to be who goes into all these spiritual schools and techniques and all the things. And it's interesting that the first they say that you have to do something to clear up your mind, and then we will give you the knowledge. So you are not ready yet to understand it. So and the starting point is from here, but actually, as I can see, all the people they want to know the nature of themselves, and it's really strange that only Vedanta start with the main thing, and then you can do all the things like purification, but with the right understanding.
Wonderful. So this is a very good thing. So we don't say that's a good thing, right? So suppose, as I told you, Vedanta doesn't say you first become eligible and then I'll teach you Atma Bodha. So in that teaching itself, both are included. Because suppose I keep giving you all the logics, but your mind is struggling with simple things. It'll all seem like going bouncers.
Yeah.
So the teaching has to include both, and each one helps the other. Each one helps the other. As you become more mature, your ability to understand this will become better. As you understand that better, your life becomes easier. So you start a virtuous circle instead of a vicious circle. So this is why it's not a small knowledge; it's a big knowledge. It's knowledge because it will give you overall, it will really evolve you overall. So therefore, Shantanam, so that we have seen that the knowledge is, from this logic we see, that is the knowledge, the Vishaya is knowledge of Atma. That will give you moksha for the people who are eligible. What is the final relationship? It is called Pratipadya Pratipadika. Pratipadya means if Atma needs to be known, so now suppose now I know that I need to know Atma needs to be known. When I suppose, as I said, suppose I am sitting, will Atma emerge? Atma is already what it is. So it can't emerge. In fact, infinity means it's already there and it is all pervasive. Infinity cannot exclude anything. So therefore, and no matter either you know this infinity or you don't know, you can't expect that, somehow I'll sit in meditation and it'll show up for me. So therefore, this is also very important. The book that you are studying, it is what is a relationship with knowledge of Atma. It is Pratipadya Pratipadaka Sambandha. This book reveals the nature of Atma. And what you want is knowledge. This is why this book is important to you.
Is it revealed the value of Atma?
Sorry?
Is it revealed the value of Atma?
The nature.
The nature.
And what you want to know is now. So if you want knowledge of physics, for example, you have to read the book that gives you knowledge of physics, right? You can't read chemistry and get the knowledge of physics, right? So that means if you want knowledge of Atma, you need a book which will give you the knowledge of Atma. That is why you are studying Atma Bodha. Do you understand? So the whole context is set. Why you are doing it, right? Then what is the relationship? So who wants to summarize 4 things? The first verse actually gives you very clear understanding of what you are looking for, what will make you eligible, what is the subject matter, and what is the connection of subject matter with this book. Who wants to summarize what did we see so far in these 2 classes? I have 7 minutes, so instead of starting something else. It's not easy to put ideas together.
You mean you want all 4 words summarized?
Yeah, wonderful.
I'll just borrow some notes from here, yeah?
Yeah.
The first is Atikari.
Wonderful.
And this is the qualifier for who is eligible.
Excellent.
To understand this.
Okay.
And then we use an example. Before getting a medical degree, I need first a prep school.
Excellent.
I can't just jump straight in. Yeah.
Excellent.
And then Vishaya was the subject matter pertaining to the subject. And in this case, the subject is Atma, that which is infinite.
Excellent. Atma not as you know it, but Atma as infinite, the whole.
And then we spoke of prayojana. Can we also call that sankalpa?
Sankalpa is your intention, but prayojana is like the purpose. Why do you want to know the nature of Atma? So
prayojana. So one asks themselves, what is my purpose for studying the subject matter? They have to first know why are they present. And then sambandha.
No, wait. Prayojana is here what? Purpose.
Prayojana is...
The purpose. Why do you want to study the nature of Atma? Because you want freedom from limitation.
From the artha, kama and...
You don't want freedom from artha, kama. You want freedom from smallness and inadequacy.
Limitation, incompleteness.
Incompleteness. So now you have recognized that my normal pursuit of artha kama is not going to actually free me from incompleteness. So therefore you go for moksha. Right? So that means what you are really searching is not a scholarship on Atma, but you are searching for is freedom from your sense of inadequacy. So prayojana, the purpose of studying this Atma Bodha is actually you are interested in your freedom. So this is why moksha is the prayojana. Is it clear?
Yes.
Could we also say that one's looking for freedom from artha, kama and dharma which they provide?
Actually, as I said, people they are not really searching for freedom from artha kama. They are searching for freedom from their sense of smallness. They are searching for freedom from their sense of limitations, incompleteness, right? Then they know that the artha, kama and dharma cannot give me that completeness that I'm searching for.
Is it to have self-mastery on the artha, kama and then
so that very pursuit of artha, dharma and kama, which actually is not giving you moksha, now you can use it for becoming eligible. This is called karma yoga. Do you understand? If I put it differently, what it means is that the normal pursuit of artha, dharma and kama, what securities, pleasures, they didn't give you the fullness that you are searching for. But what you are doing is, you can't remove yourself from this, but this pursuit you are converting into making yourself eligible. So things which are giving you loads, you are learning to free yourself from the load. This is called karma yoga. Karma yoga means that you continue to live, but life, instead of becoming a source of dissatisfaction and source for all kind of complexes for you and orientations which are unhealthy, the very life you use to free yourself from all that.
So there are means to the end?
Yeah, they become means to the end. Wonderful. They become the secondary means, not the primary means. The primary means is this knowledge. But this becomes the secondary means. Because without this, no matter how much you listen about Atma, it will not, if you're not eligible, in the sense that if your mind is not ready, no matter how good a teacher is in front of you, you will not be able to understand it. So that means it becomes a secondary means. Good, you're asking for very good questions, which actually leads to the second verse. This is secondary means, and this is the, what is the primary means? This book, which will give you the knowledge. No matter how mature you are, just by being a good human being and freeing yourself from the loads, you will not know Atma as infinite. So you need this book, which shows you the nature of Atma. Right? So what you are searching for, prayojana, is moksha, and what this is. So if you want to know the nature of Atma as infinite, this book actually reveals the nature of Atma. It's a pratipadaka. It reveals the nature of Atma that you want to know. That's why you are studying this book.
Is Sambandha on there?
There is sampatha. This is sampatha. This is a relationship. What is a relationship? The relationship is pratipadhya and pratipadaka. Pratipadhya means what you want to understand is Atma. And what is pratipadaka? This book. This book will show you how Atma is infinite and is not this small entity that you take it to be. So that is a relationship. Is it clear? Is someone
Just maybe a very basic question.
Yes.
So while we're trying to know all of this, I think is it in context to what phase of life you are? So I'll give you a sense. So in our upbringing, we've known that there are 4 stages of life. We've got brahmachari, grihastha, whatever, vanaprastha and sannyasa.
Yeah.
Is it more in context to when you are sort of maturing in life? When you move from vipassana to sannyasa, that's when you do the self-actualization. Sorry, vanaprastha.
See, it's actually interesting. We are given these stages, and this is a nice structure to have because one needs to go through some experiences in life before one actually thinks about all of this. And naturally, as I told you, prematurely, if somebody tells you, "Oh, this will not give you anything," it will not do anything. But you yourself have to actually nourish yourself and see the limitation of everything else that you have, and then the next question will arise in your mind. So if you go along with that, then yes, this structure of different ashramas, they work very well. But also Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita show that you can become this person anytime. So Nachiketa was 11 years old. So that it can also happen early enough.
But is that more a prodigy child or is it more experienced?
So that means now then Shwetaketu was in his 20s. Then so that means what it shows is that there is no time. Any time you discover this fact, you are a mumukshu. So it can come for you at a relatively younger age. It can come to you in middle age. It can come when you are in an advanced age. One thing is that the mind has to recognize. It has to recognize at some point as a result of few experiences or just watching. So there is in Mundaka Upanishad, there is a beautiful line. So it says, Pariksha lokan karmachitan, brahmanaha nirvedam ayat. So what? So that person is young, but he has seen the world and people around. They are all so busy, they are doing so many things. At the same time, they are not fulfilled 100%. So either your own experiences or looking at lives of people around you.
So is it that when we get the prayojana, we become eligible automatically?
So that means
because if this is the prayojan, so Nachiketa got it at the age of say 11, 12, someone gets it in the 20s, some in 50s. So at that point they become
eligible. See, there are 2 eligibilities that you have to understand. The first eligibility is actually you begin to recognize what am I looking for in life and what can give me what I'm looking for. That's first eligibility. But so that means Arjuna recognized this at the time of the war, right? So he says he asked Lord Krishna for this knowledge, which is he calls Shreyas, right? So therefore, so one eligibility is when you recognize the place of Atma knowledge of Atma in your life. The second eligibility is that even if you now recognize knowledge of Atma is important for me, you can't leave everything and go. This is exactly what Lord Krishna is saying. Already Arjuna was brilliant. Already he was ethical. Already he was emotionally sensitive. Still, Lord Krishna tells him, you need number of years of Karma Yoga. That is yet another eligibility. That means if you want that infinity, you yet need further evolution at the level of our mind. So if I think in Bhagavad Gita, this is a very good, what is a normal growth and what is the growth that you require for this knowledge and what is the difference? I will maybe explain in one of the classes. In evening class, if I don't do it, you remind me. I'll do that. So did you understand the two stages? One, eligible, is when you recognize the place for this knowledge. Second is, to gain the knowledge, you still further need to evolve yourself. So, is it clear? Good. I'm so happy that you all have questions and things. But good, Andre, excellent. So, otherwise, what happens when we talk about so many things? We lose track of what we are talking about. So, it's always good to come back to the essential points, because otherwise it all becomes, yeah, I get it, but you don't quite know what you got. So,
Neema, I'm 99% on Sambandha.
Okay.
Please provide me an example.
Okay.
An example.
Okay, so suppose you need to understand that in anything, right? What is a sambandha? What is a relationship between a given thing? So suppose you want to become an athlete, right? So suppose you want to be the fastest runner, right? And suppose your teacher gives you some diet. So is the diet directly related to your becoming an athlete? But it is not totally unrelated either. Do you understand? So that means that you need to take care of your diet in order to become a good sports person. But only taking care will not make you the fastest runner. Yeah. So that relationships have to be clear. What it means is, what will this book do for me for knowing the nature of Atma? Will it give me a theoretical knowledge, which I then have to make it practical? Or will it actually show me what my true nature is? I don't have to do anything to make it practical. I just have to become eligible for this knowledge. And this knowledge is showing what already is.
So what will it do to answer my prayojanam?
Superb. So what will it do? Because my prayojanam is moksha. Right. And for this moksha, I have decided that I want to know the nature of Atma. And what will this book do towards this goal? You need to know. It is indirectly helping me. It is directly solving my problem. Then that's when your relationship with the book will be proper.
See, to answer a little bit different, if I can.
Yeah, sure.
See, the people who are mentioning in Ubud or whatever, I mean, all over the world, what they lack is this sambandha, this relationship. They have a desire for being free, right? But how to get there, right? What is the means to get there? They are not clear about the sambandha. And in fact, they will even say, what book? Come on, you have to experience and do some funny things and whatever, do some special meditation or have to have special experiences. This is what will get you to freedom and to moksha. So they are lacking this understanding of the sambandha, which is this text, which is some words, are able to reveal, the revealer, pratipadaka, what is pratipadya, which is what? Your own nature. Right? This is this importance of this sambandha.
So would it be correct to say that they also miss the sambandha of their current practices to the actual freedom? They think it will bring them directly, but actually it's an indirect thing.
See, exactly. So that sambandha includes everything. Moksha is through knowledge, and how this knowledge of Atma can be gained through this book is all three. Do you get it?
What do I need to get moksha?
First, what do I need to get to moksha? That you need knowledge. then knowledge, so that means what? Will this book give me the knowledge, or this book will give me only a theoretical knowledge and then I have to do something? So all this has to be clear. So that is why this book will directly give you this knowledge, and this is why we will have the second verse will actually explain what is the relationship of this book to the knowledge of Atma that you are seeking. So there are so many implicit logics that actually this has, you have to understand it properly. So it's good that many of you are asking questions, because this is not as easy as it sounds. Because this is actually a Purushartha Nishchaya. Purushartha Nishchaya means it's an inquiry into what am I searching for and what will give me what I'm searching for. It's a big topic, it's not a small topic.
So once you've achieved your karma yoga, is then you can achieve, you can be a subject or an adhikari?
So I would not say that. What I would say is that the first eligibility is when you recognize that your normal pursuits are not helping you. That's the first eligibility. But yes, to further, to understand what the book is talking about and what is the nature of Atma, you will need to live life, as a karma yogi. But this also is included in the teaching itself. So teaching includes how do you improve, how do you become eligible, how do you prepare your mind for this knowledge. So it's not like you first have to become eligible and then you come to this book. The book in itself includes both.
And that's then the secondary means. You can then say that the secondary means is for self growth.
Yes, super.
And then the
primary
means is for gaining the knowledge.
Excellent. Yes. The primary means is to gain the knowledge. The secondary means is my growth. Without growth, knowledge will not take place. But only growth will not get you to know. You need knowledge which will reveal the nature of Atma.
But they're interconnected. By saying primary and secondary, it doesn't mean that one is more important than the other.
No, they are. There is a gradation, and that we will see in the second verse.
verse.
The second verse actually talks about it. The second verse talks about it.
Everything from the first verse.
Yeah, exactly. You want the whole of it and then first verse. Thank you.
And
one second.
Is it known if it's really written and got from Sri Shankaracharya, or is it a knowledge he just collected and wrote down? I mean, which was already there, like the rishis, like the Vedic writing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Did he create or
no.
Find out this summary, like this intense knowledge?
Yeah. So as we saw, this picture is beautiful because this picture, where is Adi Shankaracharya? Did he create the knowledge, or he's a passer? He received the knowledge and he's passing on according to Exactly. So that means the knowledge was way before Shankaracharya. Right? So that means his knowledge is flowing for generations. Who is Shankaracharya? He received this knowledge. But because he was so brilliant, what did he do? When he received the knowledge, he didn't just pass it on. He wrote commentaries on Upanishads, on Bhagavad Gita, which are still, when we study 3.5-year course, our whole basis is this commentaries on Upanishads. So what he has done, Adi Shankaracharya, is he has written commentaries on Upanishads, which were they don't have any date according to the tradition. It was an oral tradition, which then became a written tradition. He did commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. He also wrote his own books based on his understanding. They are called prakarana granthas. So this is one of them. So there are some books where he is writing on Upanishads, he is writing on Bhagavad Gita. This book is in his own words, he is explaining what Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads talk about. Having mastered that subject, he expresses it in its own way. Yeah.
Well, this book is in his own
In his own words, but the teaching belongs
Yeah.
to Upanishads and Padma.
He condensed it to
He put it in his own words. What he so his own creativity.
And in fact, if you know well Upanishad and Gita, many of the words that Shankaracharya is using are taken from the main text, right? Then you can make the connection.
See, when you come from the tradition, and people keep asking me questions, wow, okay,
And we
maybe
have
we'll
to-
do it in satsang. Yeah. When you come from a tradition, I'll just end by saying that because we are way over time. So, one thing that Swamiji used to always tell us, you can't deviate from the tradition. Why can't you deviate from the tradition? Because you will change the meaning of things. And then you will make from taking Atma into infinity into something totally different, right? So you can't do that. You have to stick to not only what the knowledge is, but also the methodologies. You can't deviate from it. But at the same time, you can use your creativity. So that means you can express it differently. That is your prerogative. So it's not against creativity, but not creativity in a sense that you change the message. You can't do that. Somebody else, Vaishali had.
No, I just wanted to declare that I think I'm more eligible this year.
Because last year, if you remember,
Yes.
You had scolded me in the class when I said that, it will happen, it may not happen, moksha, whatever. So you said no, it can happen anytime. So I see the difference in me. I'm writing less notes. Well, now there is a chance, having in a sense that, so I'm more there's a little different approach. Just by knowing that it's possible.
Yeah.
Not that I will take notes and I'll go home and I'll read.
Yeah.
Which I will, but still. So I just want to be.
No, that's good. That's good. That's good. It's good to start with it's possible. Why is it possible? Because it's you. That's already accomplished. That's why it's possible. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.